Hey guys, so I just wanted to get on here, give you an update. I hope you're having a nice Friday. Last night I went down to Owen County, and what's happening down there is what's happening across this whole state. And it is that these schools are telling parents that they're not teaching critical race theory, and they are telling the parents that social emotional learning does not incorporate critical race theory. Both of those are incorrect because social emotional learning operates on a critical race theory or culturally responsive teaching framework. And when you push back and explain social emotional learning to them, they across the board, across the state, are saying, well, we don't use it like that. That's not true. And programs, specifically the one that we addressed last night, Second Steps, is a top tiered approved program from Castle. And so it has to incorporate those competencies in order to get that stamp of approval. And so they don't realize what they're doing, or they're lying. So I'm going to read my speech to you now, and keep in mind I did write it specifically for the school board that I was addressing last night in Owen County, but short of maybe a couple details, this is something that could be read to school boards across the state because it's all relevant. I'm here tonight because it was brought to my attention that you are telling parents that you are not teaching critical race theory, yet you have adopted social emotional learning from Second Steps and possibly others. I am here to tell you that you are grossly incompetent or lying to these people about what you are doing to influence these children. Social emotional learning programs are the psychological manipulation of children's values, morals, attitudes, and worldview based on the viewpoint of a critical race theorist. Second Steps uses a CRT framework from Castle, which is an organization ran by top globalists, including the Gates Foundation and Zuckerberg Initiative. When Castle decides to move the goalpost, they do it. In the last year, they expanded the definition of SEL and updated the competencies based on critical race theory. On the Indiana Department of Education, it describes these social emotional learning programs as neurodevelopmental, culturally responsive frameworks. So let me break that down for you. Social emotional learning is a trauma-based program that puts all of the children in your school district in a Tier 1 intervention. The reason they put them all in this category is because the program assumes all of the children victims of the systemically racist America that they say we live in. So the neurodevelopmental part of the framework literally means they are working to rewire the children's brains or thought process. In order to adopt this new perception of what it means to live in America, the culturally responsive framework comes from Gloria Ladson Billings, who is a critical race theorist. Critical race theory is the idea that our country is systemically racist. Culturally responsive teaching is the way they influence children in K-12 schools to adopt this radical ideology, and social emotional learning is the delivery system that brings it into the school. You all have adopted a program that you clearly do not understand. You owe it to these people to listen to what they say, respect their right, and teach their children values, morals, beliefs. Research what you are putting into your school and stop jumping on bandwagons. Now I'm going to explain to you this framework, and they were given a copy of it. And I said, but if you have any respect for these parents at all, you will read this and do your own research. This framework from Castle is used by Second Steps and other leading SEL programs in Indiana. This framework moves the children from individuality to collectivism. SEL transforms the school culture to influence these children to find their identities and figure out if they are an oppressor or if they are oppressed. Next, the children are influenced to make responsible decisions based on those identities. Finally, you move the children into becoming activists for the movement once they have adopted this radical ideology. This is child manipulation and abuse. Finally, I will leave you with a challenge. Social emotional learning hides the critical race theory agenda with words like diversity, inclusion, and equity. If you truly believe we need systemic change based on equity rather than meritocracy, and since you are the system, By the next school board meeting, you will set the example for the children that you believe you had the right to adopt this insanity for. Some of you will need to step down because you are all white, and that is not very equitable now, is it? So you go first in the name of equity. Either get rid of social emotional learning or figure out which of you will step down in order to put minority representation on your board. I have already educated some members of this community on the truth, and I will not stop doing that until everyone knows what exactly it is that you brought into your school system, which is the psychological manipulation of children to adopt a critical race theory ideology.